Adrian Newey is one of the most iconic names in Formula 1, a design genius who has overseen World Championship winning success with Williams, McLaren and Red Bull. Newey has enjoyed a phenomenal career with incredible longevity, with his cars winning races and championships from the early 90s all the way up to the present day. But Newey has never courted the limelight that his talents and achievements would deserve. He rarely gives interviews, and he definitely isn't one for soundbites over a Grand Prix weekend. However, the race's F1 writer Mark Hughes got a rare opportunity to sit down with Newey for an in-depth conversation, which recently became the 10,000th article published on our website since we launched in February 2020. It was a fitting way to mark such a big moment for us, and the interview was so good, we thought we'd go through some of the highlights from it with you here on our YouTube channel as well. So let's take a rare glimpse inside the mind of one of F1's most successful and fascinating characters. After 4 years of domination with Sebastian Vettel at Red Bull, Newey found himself questioning his future in F1 in 2014, and it was all Renault's fault. It wasn't simply that he'd got used to winning again and Renault was slow out of the blocks in the hybrid era, it was the French manufacturer's attitude. Newey said, "We had a supplier that seemed more interested in the marketing angle that came from being in F1 than actually being competitive," and he went on to say that Renault didn't want to accept it was behind and didn't seem motivated to do enough about its plight. Newey admits he lost motivation. He turned down offers from Mercedes and Ferrari because deep down he didn't want to leave behind everything he'd helped build at Red Bull, but the Renault situation pushed him very close to walking away from F1 entirely. While Red Bull and Renault fell out in public over the years that followed, Newey's day-to-day involvement in F1 waned. He admits there were some years where he wouldn't get a proper look at the latest regulations and the new cars until arriving at the first race of the season, at which point he would set about trying to help Red Bull improve its car. The Aston Martin Valkyrie supercar project kept him busy during those years, and his passion for F1 was reinvigorated when Honda arrived as Red Bull's new engine partner. Referencing Renault again, Newey told us, "If you have an engine partner that's below the competitors but shows a real desire and a will to fix it, then you accept it." With Honda, that's what Red Bull had. Newey says the Japanese engine was not quite there in 2019, but Honda's drive and motivation to get it right changed his attitude towards jumping back into F1. It certainly paid off, with Max Verstappen winning Red Bull's first championship since Vettel's 4th title in 2013, and the team making a strong start to the new rules era in 2022. Newey wasn't impressed with the 2022 rules when he first saw them. In fact, he goes as far as saying he was quite depressed by them. As one of F1's great creative minds, he's always taken issue with the constant tightening of the regulations, which he feels can stifle clever thinking. But once he got stuck into the new package for this year, he was pleasantly surprised. Newey found there was freedom in some areas, most notably the side pods, floor and suspension. So he's not been surprised to see as much variation as there is on the grid in those areas, although he admitted that he didn't see the Mercedes side pod solution coming. Before we move on to some more of the things Newey talked about with Mark Hughes, we've got a question for you. Of all the iconic cars Newey has designed, which is your favourite? Let us know in the comments, and if you're not already a subscriber to our channel, we'd love to have you along so you never miss another video from us. This entry might turn the comments of this video into the typical F1 social media war zone, and we can only apologise for that. But while Newey understandably takes the Red Bull party line in stating the Silverstone collision between Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton was a clear professional foul by the Mercedes driver, he's more balanced on their late season altercations. He accepts that Verstappen's run off track in defending his position in the Brazilian Grand Prix was a bit naughty, and he adds that the eventual world champion shouldn't have brake tested Hamilton in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, even if he feels that was done out of frustration. Newey believes Verstappen's reputation for being wild is unfair, and he thinks it takes time for a driver to shake off a label like that once the paddock has made its mind up. Verstappen is the 7th driver to win a championship driving one of Newey's cars, and perhaps unsurprisingly, Newey finds him great to work with. He finds Verstappen very open, saying he always wrings a car's neck, and when you ask him to do something, he'll always try it. He praises Verstappen's feedback and his awareness of what the tyres are doing and how to manage them. And he says drivers like Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo are easy to work with because their approach to debriefs is to concentrate on the things you need to know, while also being happy to take time to answer follow-up questions. Newey also gave a fascinating insight into working with Sebastian Vettel and Mika Hakkinen, so check out the link to the article in the description of this video if you want to read about those. It's not an exaggeration to say that Newey almost wasn't around to see his latest World Championship success at the end of 2021. Just a few months earlier, he suffered a fractured skull while on holiday in Croatia, and were it not for the help of former F1 Supremo Bernie Ecclestone among others, Newey might not still be here to tell us how it happened. Newey had knocked himself out after falling down a 6-foot drop onto a rocky beach while cycling, but having come to a few seconds later, he thought he'd escaped with just a gash to the head. However, when he woke up feeling dreadful the next morning, action was required. Ecclestone used his Croatian contacts to get hold of a top neurosurgeon who got Newey admitted to hospital. Red Bull team boss Christian Horner arranged for Newey to be flown back to the UK, where his friend Joe Macari found a neurosurgeon to operate on the skull that houses one of the most brilliant minds in F1 history. Having missed a few races, Newey returned to the paddock in Turkey, but that was probably a little too soon, and he says he still wasn't feeling great until the next race in America. Looking back at it now, in his brilliantly understated way, he sums it up as a silly accident and not recommended. So Newey has come close to not being here at all, or simply walking away from F1 in the past. He's 63 now and has been working in top-level motorsport since the early 1980s, so it's fair to wonder what his next steps might be as he ponders a life away from the coalface. He knows he'd get bored if he just stopped working altogether, even though he could certainly afford it. F1-wise, he's hinted at taking a slightly distant advisory role, similar to what Rory Byrne has done at Ferrari. However, he'd want to be making genuinely useful contributions rather than just appearing at the factory from time to time to be a distraction to the design team. He's also got a big interest in the future of road cars, especially as he feels that industry is heading in the wrong direction by creating big, heavy electric vehicles that he feels aren't particularly efficient. If a manufacturer could ever convince Newey to make the full-time switch, the road car industry's gain would very much be F1's loss. There's lots more to hear from Newey in the interview on our website, so make sure you check out the link in the description of this video to give that a read, and we hope you've enjoyed our little overview here of some of the things he talked about.